All right, everyone. Morning, thanks for afternoon as it is now. Great community session last night. This is just an unlisted video because I wanted to respond to this, but I just thought it'd be easier to do it by video rather than typing out a big load of text. Because there's some stuff here like this, like last night, like great game, and I got like really good feedback from the players. This is fucking excellent feedback. Thank you, Joseph. And this is awesome. And I wanted to respond to all this because, like, in general, like, great feedback. But just as, like, obviously someone who's made the game, played a lot of sessions, and understands the intentions of the system, there's like a few bits, like, I think I can add a little bit, like, more context and nuance in response to some of this. Obviously, I had to create. I'm terrified of like, oh, everyone's gonna like hate my system, but you know, I genuinely just wanted to like talk about some of this because I think it's interesting. So I'm just going to talk about Joseph's post here and some other stuff. So Joseph, who played, well, fucking Loreas, I've still got his name as Joseph, but Loreas, who played the session last night. Yeah, character creation, stuff like that. Unnecessary dice rolls. Obviously, a lot of this was the way I ran the system. Explosion. I kind of wanted to talk about this. A lot of people have compared the system to Fate because it's got that 0 average. And I kind of wanted to talk about the maths of the system a bit. I've heard a lot of people saying that it's like a very, very swingy system in terms of those extreme crits. So what I thought would be interesting is to show some of the math behind it. I've actually got it up here. I'm just going to hide this and show. So yeah, these are your basic odds of success and failure. Obviously, well, the odds table is essentially how your aptitude compares to the enemy's aptitude or its difficulty. Like, you know, your attack versus their defense. If they're equal, then it's a 0. So you can see at this point, you've got kind of a 50-50 chance of success or failure, although it's 45, 45, and 10% of a struggle, right? And as we go up and down the numbers, those odds change quite dramatically just from a couple flat numbers. And we can talk about the maths and what those like mean in the system. It is kind of an interesting maths system where like at that equal odds, and it is kind of what I wanted to simulate. It's come out quite beautifully. Just having that slight advantage or slight disadvantage can really make or break you. Whereas if you've already got an overwhelming chance of success, having, you know, even more additional benefits isn't going to help as much as it is at that break point, right? But this is the kind of overall odds of success and failure. And I had to re-record this. I realized I was using the old tables where you had a 1% chance of crit. Now it's actually a 3% chance of crit at baseline. This bolded line in the middle, that's like your baseline stats. This breaks down everything, every chance of success and failure in the game. So you can see if you're like equal odds with your opponent, my lizard's making weird noises. If you're at equal odds with the opponent, you've got like 10% chance of a struggle, and you're very, very weighted towards like a basic success or failure. So you're going to be doing a lot of those like low damage hits, which in this system is just 1 harm. And you kind of like, I'd say like beginner characters can take up to 4 harm before they start going down. Like more perseverance characters, they're going to take more like sort of 8 harm, and it goes up and up to sort of legendary levels, but the scaling does kind of taper off there. Oh yeah, I'll talk about maths in a sec. I forgot to mention that before. We'll talk about maths with potency and stuff. Yeah, so then you've got like a 12% chance of like a sure success, and then a 3% chance of a crit. So it's actually less likely to crit in D&D at baseline. But obviously that's not the full story, because in this system, it's not just like a flat chance of getting a nat 20. It is based on your aptitude. So if you get that +1, those little benefits, like maybe your opponent is prone, so you get a +1 or a +2, I believe it is, then your odds of critting are going to go up quite dramatically, which is something I very much like. And yeah, like if you're like 10 above them, not only are you guaranteed to succeed, your chances of success are like, you're more likely than not to get an ultimate success. Because if you are the legendary swordsman and some fucking minion runs up to you going, yeah, then you want that cinematic moment where you just go, psh, with not even a full action, just like a partial action, you just psh, dissipate them into fucking dust. That's what I want here. Yeah. So that's kind of some of the maths behind the system here. So it's like I've adjusted it because I think 1% chance of a crit was too low before, but you can use the old table. I'll show you the old table here. Yeah, these were the old odds tables when I was using like a 1 to 4, 5 to 8 system, and you can still use these if you want. It's easy enough, but I prefer the new ones. That was like the adjustment that I made, and I'm quite happy with this in practice. And as I kind of explained in the session last night, it's because you know, in stories and films, it's kind of lame. Like, wouldn't it be kind of lame if the villain, you just hit him 100 times, and then eventually at like the 100th hit, he just goes, whew, guess that's me, and just like kind of falls over. It's not very dramatic. It's like, you know, you build up and set up, and you do some big moment to get that killing blow by being creative, by setting up with your team, you know, that big dramatic getting the team to work together, or because you laid some trap ahead of time, and in the moment that he's stuck, that he's got his leg in, maybe he's got a -2 just for that 1 second, then you lay into him, and that's when you get your big success. You only deal a wound if you deal a critical or above at the current time. Yeah, so we'll go back to Loreas. But yeah, I wanted to kind of go into this because I think it's interesting to talk about, is that it's a swingy system in terms of like the extremes are extreme, but you are like more likely to get those middle odds. So you can have a fight where it feels more tactical. You're like feeling out each other's defenses, maybe doing little bits of damage here and there, and you're like trying to feel out your opponent for like an opening, a weakness, trying to find an opening or a weakness. And obviously you can do that narratively, or you can do that by maybe maybe you're just holding someone off for a while using clashes, just not letting them get any damage in while your teammates are mopping up the mobs with the intention of like, okay, I'm just holding the line. I'm thinking like, you know, Total War strategy games. And then once they've mopped it up, then they can come around the back, and that's our strategy. There's a lot of ways you can play this. Or it's like a system that very much rewards doing a blitz approach, where you're going to just get a stealth ambush and kill everyone before they get a chance to respond. That's also a really good strategy in this game. So player agency, obviously, that was the intention there. I love the fatigue system. Really glad that everyone enjoyed that. I could not be happier. Yeah, I think before we go back up to that one-sided. We'll just kind of go over things in order. I'm just going to ramble. This isn't a structured, scripted video. Clash system. I will say, like, I had hoped to get an explanation video of all the rules up before that game, so I didn't have to, like, you know, re-explain everything every time. But I've been flat out, as I keep saying. I'm not going to keep repeating myself. So there were some things like react moves that like I didn't even get to explain to the players before the game, and I didn't even intend to put in the game, but we kind of started to be like, oh, you know, if someone's going to be able to get behind you, you need to be able to move and turn around. And that move react system is something that I'm still playing with, trying to find like the simplest possible thing, which I already did. Like the clash system in general, the reaction system has gone through multiple iterations, and I'm really happy with, like, it feels very intuitive at this current point, and I'd like to do that with move reacts. There are like, and move reacts, for those who didn't really watch the game, it's just like when someone's trying to like chase you, you can move, so you're not, it's the problem where like you're stuck in a hallway and you can't move past your teammates because everything is turn based. It's the problem of like someone's running away from you and they're going to run into the trees, but you're just kind of stuck, frozen in time, so you can just follow them. Makes things feel a bit more real and cinematic. But I am trying to make that as simple as possible to actually adjudicate, because I'm aware that we don't want to end up as GURPS here. That's not the whole point. We want a game that's playable by humans. But from my side of things, it actually worked pretty well in session using move reacts, because Roll20 really helped me. There were just boxes where I could put the spent movement in there. But I will say, like, I will absolutely admit, the first time I ran the current iteration of the reaction system, it was a head fuck. The first session was a head fuck. And the more I've done it, it just starts to feel really intuitive, and like at this point for me, it's fairly easy to use. I'm not gonna lie, like I still, you know, you can still drop things. Like in any game, you forget, oh, you've got this ability thing to remember here. Dande's going crazy in the background. But like, I think considering I was like online for 6 hours yesterday on that call, and 5 hours for the session itself, including character creation. I think I did all right, and I was like rushing it as well through the combats. I think we did all right. Um, yeah, and what you're mentioning there with like you don't really zone off during fights, that's absolutely intention. Like I hate that obviously in a lot of games. So I'm really glad that you saw that as well. And I am also very ADHD and autistic. I got the full spec into that. GMing the clash system. Yeah, I literally there was a point. I might be able to get this up here actually. My core drafts. There was a point where I was like, if I was going to run this as like a war game, like a Warhammer 40k, how would I simplify the rules? And that's actually the thought that got me to move from this kind of action debt system that I had been using for clashes and move to, oh, you just get your action back on turn end. So there's ways of rephrasing it that don't even change the rules that can make things a lot easier to grok. And I also figured I'd have like tokens for like, you know, how many action points you got left, which we didn't use in this session. We kept it simple. There are some things that I really like. There's a system that I use at baseline called the bonus effect system. And that basically means like if you deal harm to someone, if you deal more than one harm, you get bonus effects just for free. So you can do things like knockback, bleed. If you're using fire attacks, you can set them on fire and things like that. And I like that system, and I think it's actually really simple to use. But it's just like I want to keep things dead simple for introducing the game. Fights get one-sided get really quickly. Fights being brief. That is also kind of by design and intention. Because for me, there's nothing worse than when you're playing a combat and time slows down to a crawl. Like fights in real life, if no one's taking cover, if there's just a fight and we're just in a brawl, fights are very quick. Fights take seconds, and I wanted to simulate that because when a fight starts to drag, and it like takes literal hours in real time, then it stops feeling like tense. You can't be tense and on edge for that long. Horror movies know this. Like the more you drag it out, the more kind of you just get used to it, and you're like, all right. The combat music has been playing really high for like fucking an hour and a half now, and I'm just like, just getting a bit tired here. So I try to keep combats kind of brief. Obviously, like I said earlier, there's ways to do like more battles of attrition when you're taking cover, when you're taking pot shots. Cover is quite effective in this game because of obviously the rules in terms of like those flat modifiers mean a lot. What else we got? GMing the clash system. Yeah, physical tokens I think are going to be a good idea, or VTTs, it works really well. Obviously, it kind of sucks, makes things a little harder that I don't have Roll20 integration yet. But the little tokens that you can just put like movement spent action in the green box I was using, that worked pretty well for me. What else? Just using for it to remember harm. I don't have the initiative tracker integrated, so I think that makes it also harder for the player to see where we're at unless they're keeping their own notes. I just did it in a notepad, so some of it's like, you know, beta problems. I'd love to have a Foundry integration, but that's gonna be a whole job. Honorable mentions. Greg, great GM. Thank you. Honestly, amazing feedback from everyone all involved. Really lucky to have players who were so into like systems and talking about that. I won't go on too much other than say like I'm really looking forward to seeing how other GMs take the system and run it differently, because my style is maybe a bit more like zoomed out in some ways, a bit like just moving things forward, and especially for one shots I had to really like just keep the tempo going because I already ran over. But I'm really looking forward to seeing how other people will get into the system. Yeah, and the other one thing I did want to just mention regarding the opaque math, which again, I didn't have time to get into everything with everyone. Potency is actually dead simple. It's literally just like for most physical actions, it's your might. For if you're a magician, it's your spirit. That's like your power stat. Whereas like wits or dexterity is what you use to actually hit, your chance of hit. So potency is literally, in the case of a weapon, for instance, it's just your might plus your weapon's potency bonus. And there's a little bit more with how we go into like how weapons get to that level of potency. But beneath the scenes, it's kind of simple. And it might seem weird that, for instance, with like ranged weapons, that might is going to affect it for a gun. My justification there, it's a little bit more gamist than narrativist in terms of that. A lot of the time you're using a bow and arrow, and strength should help you. Like fucking archers are really strong, especially for strong bows. My kind of justification is that like you would be using a heavier weapon at that point if you're stronger, because then you can get more out of it. And if you pick up someone else's weapon, you can always justify it by saying, well, I'm able to hold the weapon steadier and getting more of my bullets on shot. That's the kind of narrativist way that I justify it for balance reasons. I will briefly show the weapons system. So yeah, weapons in this game, I want it to be simple in terms of the math. I don't want it to be really difficult to balance, where it's like, what's better, a 2d8 or d12 plus a d6, all this kind of stuff where you actually have to like figure out the odds. No, in this system it's flat numbers, and if you go up from a quality 1 to a quality 2 weapon, you literally just increase its potency, the damage it adds to your attacks, by 1, which seems like a really low number, but in the system, as we've seen from the maths, those flat numbers are actually quite huge. And you can build balanced weapons in the system. We've got a whole weapon list here of the ones that I've built. Some of this is like, needs to be slightly updated. But you can build a weapon by going and like adding all of these traits. And the intention behind that is that I don't want people to just use what's mathematically optimal. I want them to be able to use a cool weapon that they like and have it be roughly balanced. And I'm sure someone out there is going to like make a mod at some point where it's all like historically accurate, where the spear is just the best possible thing because it's the cheapest thing for the best bang for your buck. That's not what I wanted to build, but it's definitely easily done. So there's all these kinds of traits where you can attach things. It's long mailing, still kind of working on the fiddliness of that. You can have chained weapons where you pull people and wrap them up around things that are like, you can put a crossguard on your weapon, so it's a little bit better at clashes and defense. And then with ranged weapons, we've got like range tables, which I might go into another time. But yeah, you can just sort of build your own weapon, and then it outputs a weapon with an appropriate amount of potency with various different traits and benefits. I'm gonna shut up now, but like, thank you so much for the feedback. I'm gonna post this on YouTube.